Bam, we're live. Good morning. What's up, Caleb?
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's not
On
even
a
a
Monday.
Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
It's nice. Nice. Really incredible guest coming on today. I watched a lot of his content yesterday, a lot of interviews he's been on. This is going to be one you don't want to miss. I want to try to get some time to make sure you guys have, if any of you guys have questions. This is going to be very interesting because I'm trying to, Thomas Seyfried wrote a book, what's it called? Cancer is a Metabolic Disease. I remember Greg used to always carry it around with him. Cancer as a Metabolic Disease, published in 2012. And as you know, we had many years ago, we had the author Sam Apple on, who wrote a book about the Nobel Prize winner, Otto Warburg, who discovered that cancer was a metabolic disease. And basically, Seyfried has picked up where Otto Warburg left off. And there are some important questions I want to ask him. Important in the sense that hopefully it can help all of us understand how he got to where he got, using terms that I can understand. Because when doctors interview him, it's for me, it's difficult to stay on track. They use a lot of words that I have to look up. So there's a distinction. We're going to start off, and I'm going to ask him some questions about the distinction between what is cancer, and then what is the distinction from people who think it's a genetic disease versus a metabolic disease. And this is really, really going to be good. So he'll be coming on at in 11 minutes. He's coming on at 7:30 a.m. I will also I'm going to try to leave the phone lines open. So if any of you guys have questions, you guys can get them in. I also want to learn about his history, how he got into this, what his parents were like. It must be really weird that there's this multi-billion trillion dollar machine that is doing the same thing you're doing, but they're completely off base. They're not aligned with you. Meaning, Pfizer, all these pharmaceutical companies, if you go to a hospital, they're going to give you chemo. They're going to treat cancer as if it's a genetic disease. And he's saying there's no there with those cures. And so there's a lot of places we can go. I watched him. There's a video on YouTube. It has over 1 million views, where he's being interviewed by an oncologist. And you can see this oncologist just having his eyes just peeled wide open, as opposed to being really, really defensive. Some people must get really defensive in his presence. Yeah, could control sugar is a key for cancer. He's going to talk about all that. I could tell you from all the videos I've been watching, there's 2 fuels for cancer cells. I think it's glutamine and glucose. But we'll let him get into it as far as we can understand, or as far as I can understand. Some of you may understand more than me, but I'm going to try to keep it on the level that I can understand it. I know Greg is a huge, huge fan of this guy. I've heard this guy lecture at least a half dozen times in person. He's a professor at Boston University. I think he was a professor at Yale also. To be honest with you, with the politics that are around, I'm surprised he hasn't even been kicked out of his school. What were you going to say, Caleb?
He was at Greg's event, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's been to a handful of Greg's. Okay. Yeah, he's been to our research program focuses on mechanisms of which metabolic therapy manages chronic diseases such as epilepsy, neurodegenerative lipid storage diseases, I don't even know what that is, and cancer. Metabolic therapies include caloric restriction, fasting, ketogenic diets. Our approach is based on the idea that compensatory metabolic pathways are capable of modifying the pathogenesis of complex diseases. Global shifts in metabolic environment can neutralize molecular pathology. In the case of cancer, these therapies target and kill tumor cells while enhancing the physiological health of normal cells. The neurochemical and genetic mechanisms of these phenomena are under investigation in novel animal models and include the process of inflammation, cellular physiology, angiogenesis, and lipobiochemistry. Damn, I can't believe I read through that.
Yeah, that was good. Wow.
And I think maybe I think he's getting even more and more bold with what he knows. I think it's a bizarre world we live in. I don't think you can just go on YouTube and just be like, "Hey, I have the cure for cancer." I think for some reason I think that's illegal. I think there's like some rules around that. We'll ask him all of that. Mrs. Slop, my dad just finished treatment. He was part of a clinical trial. They gave him immunotherapy instead of chemo. Still made him super sick. He also didn't see a dietitian and ate the hospital food every day.
Mm.
Yeah. And there's also I don't know if this is his oh, I don't see it on here. For some reason I thought it would be here. Let me see if I can find this I keep seeing this. Let me show you guys this. On 2 of the videos that he's been in, I've seen this commercial played.
If you want to learn how to implement the ketogenic diet and the Press Pulse protocol into your cancer management, just visit school.com/keto for cancer, the new community by our research analyst Johnny Rockermeyer. Within this new community platform, you can connect with other patients and learn.
So this thing has I think I'm going to have to ask him, but this thing has the entire protocol that Seyfried has put together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he says some things that, you know, seem basically that there aren't different kinds of cancer. Cancer is cancer is cancer.
Okay.
And I think he's also going to be really on board with the fact that all of these things that RFK is doing and Cali Means and all these guys is just a huge distraction, and worrying about processed foods and dyes and all that stuff, that basically at the end of the day, what it comes down to is just keeping down your blood sugar levels.
Mm.
That's it. That's like, that's your, so is keto the cure? Well, from what I've seen, no, it's not the cure, but we'll ask them. It's the mechanism in which you would use to, before you have cancer, that you want to try to keep your blood sugar levels as low as you can. But once you have cancer, I think there's also other stuff you have to do. I think that basically you have to find a way to starve the cancer cells, the cancer tumors, from uptaking glucose and glutamine. Yeah, I don't think it's as simple as just getting rid of sugar. I think cancer cells can use glutamine. I don't even know what fermentation is, but it's he should really be talking about this, and he will, I'm sure. But I guess most cells need oxygen in order to do whatever mechanism they have that produces energy. They need oxygen to perform it, and cancer cells don't. And they use a process called fermentation to make energy, which is the breaking down of something, acids or yeast or bacteria. And so they don't need oxygen, and somehow that's relevant in how they're to be starved. So he'll get into it. I'm sure he'll get into it. I just want him to. I want it to be in a way that I can understand and you guys can understand. I figure if I can understand it, anyone can understand it. I had this weird correlation with fast food and me getting bug-like predictable. So I hadn't really had any fast food since starting CrossFit. Maybe Wendy's salad or burger, but rare. Bug-like? I'm sorry.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. Devesh, legally speaking, there is no cure, but sounds like keto would not cure it.
Wouldn't
Yeah,
not.
Yeah, wouldn't not. Yeah. Oh, wouldn't not. ESL.
So it would in a roundabout
English
way.
as a second language. Dan Guerrero, I heard your mom cures cancer.
Yeah, I heard she cures hip pain too.
It's a little forced, but I like it. She fixed my bad back.
She can cure anything, dude.
Ty, if the mitochondria is unhealthy, the cell switches over to fermentation process for cellular energy. And then on top of that, I don't even know why cancer would kill you. If there's still cells, what, they don't perform the tasks? I don't even really understand why cancer would kill you. I don't understand what tasks cancer cells don't perform that cause you to die. So, hopefully I can ask him all these dumb questions. I'm going to ask him about methylene blue. I'm going to ask him about glucose monitors. I do have that in here. Staying in ketosis, will that fend off a cancer breakout? Unfortunately, I don't think his protocols are like available at Kaiser. You know what I mean? I don't think that
you can't bill for that.
Yeah, I don't think his protocols are basically available anywhere in the United States at any hospital. I keep hearing people reference that there's a hospital somewhere in Turkey, or that there's a program in Turkey that you can go to. I'll ask him if his insights scare their doctors. Thomas has 150 scientific papers already written. But you can go online and you can see him explain these things to other oncologists, and like no one's pushing back. Everyone's like, oh shit, everything this guy is saying is making sense.
I feel like in that space, they're going to be so defensive. Like, it's hard to find somebody that would actually sit there and be like, oh, okay, that's interesting. They're so invested in whatever work that they've put into
10 years of medical school and another 20 years of becoming an expert on how to cure cancer, and then all of a sudden you realize you're barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah, your whole world just implodes because somebody came in and was like, actually, this is all wrong. Which, I mean, you would expect that's the nature of the game, right? Somebody comes in and they have something revolutionary or something that changes the way you do your job, and you should be open to doing that, looking into it.
And I hear him say a lot of the same stuff that, this group was talking about during COVID, that people, or when we talk about homelessness, people are trying to fix the symptom instead of curing the problem. Like, building homes for homeless people is not the cure. That's just, trying to address the symptom. The problem is that they're drug addicts and thieves. So you got to get them off the fucking drugs so that they can participate back in society, and then they'll get their own house, their order in which they prioritize doing shit. And so basically, when I hear him talking about viewing cancer as a genetic disease, he's saying that that's addressing the symptom and not the cause. But bear with me here. As we dig into this and try to take baby steps. Thomas, good morning.
Is this Sevon? How you doing today?
This is Sevon and Caleb. I'm doing great, man. I'm so excited to have you on, Thomas.
Sevon, where are you located now?
I'm in Santa Cruz, California, and Caleb is in
Florida.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right. So two of us are on the same time zone, and you're earlier.
Thomas, I watched a lot of videos that you did yesterday on your channel. You've done a lot of podcasts, and YouTube has tons of great interviews with you. I have to say, if I think 80% of it goes over my head. I'm not able, because you talk to a lot of really smart people. And I want to try to, and I've heard you speak, probably 6 times in person, and you have a very palatable presentation when you give that presentation to, the layman in the audience. And so I do feel like I have a good grasp of a lot of the things that you say. The audience is, mostly people who want to take personal accountability and personal responsibility for their life. They want to eat right. They want to move well. They want to live long, healthy lives. But before we start, in a couple of the videos that you have done, I have seen this video play at some point during your presentation. Like, they'll interrupt your presentation and this video will play in the middle. And I'm wondering, do you endorse this place as a resource for my listeners? This school.com, Keto for Cancer? It's kind of a curation. Have you seen this site? It's a curation of a lot of your ideas and an aggregation of them.
And I don't know this thing. I don't know what this is.
Okay. Because it's called Ketogenic Diet and Cancer Metabolism with Dr. Thomas Seyfried, and it's a fan page. But basically, there's
yeah,
all anyway. Okay.
You know, I just found out yesterday that they use my likeness and stuff to sell things. And,
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Okay. Okay.
and I don't get a nickel for any of that stuff.
Okay.
So I'm only familiar with what I say.
Okay.
And if people could comprehend what I'm saying and adapt it the correct way, then that benefits them. But if they're scam artists and snake oil guys, then we have to shut those guys down.
Okay. For my audience and myself to understand exactly what you do, I feel like the sequencing of my questions is going to be really important, so that we can build it in baby steps. If for some reason you think that I'm not asking the right question, you just hijacked it. You just hijack, okay?
Yeah,
Please,
fine.
please. I defer to you at all times. Okay. Can you tell me? So you're a professor at Boston University?
No, Boston
No.
College.
Boston College. Listen, I
Yeah,
live in
for
Santa
crying
Cruz.
out loud.
I live in Santa
You
Cruz.
guys on the other side of the world, we're both on the same avenue called Commonwealth Avenue. If
Okay.
you
Already
told
fucked up,
somebody
already fucked up.
that from BU, they get confused. Oh, he's from BC. He's from BU. They're two totally different universities. One is a Jesuit university, which we're at, and the other one is a city university, where Boston University is. We play hockey with them, and that's the big rivalry in the city.
Hockey's that game with the ice in the middle and
Yes.
the boys with sticks. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
and the
Okay.
rivalry is Boston College, Boston University.
Okay.
Two different institutions on the same avenue.
Okay. Let's screw this up. Okay. Boston College. And you have a room there. Colleges have these things called like labs or something. And you have a
Yes.
lab there and you study there. This is where you do your
Yes.
studies.
And we study and teach here.
Okay. And how long have you been there?
40 years.
Holy cow.
Oh my God.
I'm just getting started. What are you guys talking about?
Okay.
Some of
Okay.
my friends have been here for 55 years.
40 years. And then I want to tell you, many years ago, I did have Sam Apple on. He wrote the book, the biography, if you would call it that, on Mr. Otto Warburg. And because we have a mutual friend, Greg Glassman, who loves the Otto Warburg story, I have had the opportunity to hear that. And Otto Warburg, I think, was the father of photosynthesis. And then he also discovered the fact that cancer was a metabolic disease, maybe won the Nobel Prize for it. And then that's kind of
No, he didn't. No. He didn't win the Nobel Prize for cancer.
Okay.
He won the Nobel Prize for discovering cytochrome C, which is the respiratory enzyme. He was nominated for his work on cancer, I think twice, but Hitler said Germans don't get Nobel Prizes. So it's not clear whether he would have received that, even if Hitler gave him the go ahead. So it wasn't clear.
And then that research kind of went dormant for 50 years.
Yeah, well, I think it was pretty debated all the way up in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. It kind of started fizzling out in the 1950s. And then Pete Peterson at Johns Hopkins kind of kept the flame burning a little bit on that metabolic approach. But most of the people ran off thinking cancer was a genetic disease. And our work now has brought is in the process of bringing the field back to on the correct path. And even those individuals that think cancer is a metabolic problem are forced by the political economic environment to say that genes are drivers of the metabolism, where it's really the metabolism, the driver of the gene. So if you want to keep your NIH grant and you want to be recognized, you cannot say that cancer is not a genetic disease. So you have to say, oh, the genes control the metabolism. And that goes back to the work of Jacob and Monod, where they started to show that genes could control metabolism. And they felt the same thing would be true for cancer, but clearly that's not the case. It's a mitochondrial metabolic disease, which is controlling the genetic expression. So these are very important foundational concepts because they direct, they move fields in certain directions. So you really need to know the theory that's most supported by the data to drive the development of the field. And as you know right now, Savan, we have 1,700 people a day dying from cancer in the United States, and it's getting worse and worse every year, which is based on the genetic theory, which is the somatic mutation theory. So you keep producing therapies and drugs and approaches based on an incorrect theory, and as the result, you don't move the field forward. Now, once you realize that this Otto Warburg was correct in some ways, and we've cleared up a lot of his misunderstanding, and rectified some of this whole thing. So now we can move forward in a direction that will drop death rate and improve health massively. So it just takes time for people to understand what's going on, and it takes time for the industry to adapt. At what point? Right now, we're sitting in an extremely profitable industry, this cancer industry. How are you going to adapt to a new theory and maintain revenue? And that's where we are right now. We know what cancer is, and we know how to prevent it, and we know how to manage it without toxicity based on the science. The field can't accept that yet because they're all rummaging around trying to figure out how do we transition revenue generation from one theory to another. And I think that's where we are right now, because we're publishing papers and showing data that if they were drugs, we'd be billionaires. They're not drugs. They're diet, lifestyle changes, and having massive effect on managing cancer. But everybody's, oh God, if this were only a drug. Yeah, well, it's not a drug. Just get over it. You want to live or you want to die?
Can you tell me two things? What is the difference between, what is it to say that cancer is a genetic disease versus a metabolic disease? And then also, can you tell me what cancer is?
Yeah, well, first, cancer is cell division out of control, dysregulated cell growth. That's what cancer is. You go to any biology book, and what is cancer? Dysregulated cell growth. What the hell does that mean? Certain cells are sitting around. They're doing they're quiescent. They're doing their natural activities in lung, kidney, breast, colon. And then all of a sudden, they start growing out of control, forming what we call a tumor, okay? And this tumor can become malignant because it starts to invade local areas and then spread around the body, referred to as metastasis, the spreading from a localized site to other sites through the bloodstream, through the lymphatics and things like this. And then you end up with neoplasia, which is the whole concept of the development of the tumor, the blood vessels, and all the stuff that goes along with it. So that's what cancer is.
Why is that bad though? Why is that bad? Because then they want to survive themselves. Like,
no. Well, they'll kill you. I mean, these growths will spread and eventually compromise your entire physiology and end up killing you.
Okay, so they don't participate in you moving forward as a human being. Somehow these cancer cells don't participate like other cells.
Yeah, they're growing out of control. They're no longer regulated. And the organelle that controls the regulation of their growth is called the mitochondrion. It's an organelle inside the cell that regulates the growth of the cell and the biology of the cell. So when that organelle becomes corrupted, the cell starts to grow out of control. Now, the somatic mutation theory says that the dysregulated cell growth is the result of genetic mutations in the nucleus. So you have all of these somatic mutations, which are mutations in the nuclear DNA of cancer cells. And yes, there are a lot of mutations in the nuclear DNA of cancer cells. The somatic mutation theory states that it is the somatic mutations themselves that are responsible for the dysregulated cell growth. That's called the somatic mutation theory. And that's the theory that is currently the dominant theory leading to all of the drugs, many of the drugs and approaches for managing cancer. And you hear about them, the immunotherapies, Keytruda, Opdivo. You hear them advertised on television at night. You hear people say, oh, we have precision medicine. We have an approach to fix your specific cancer, precision medicine, personalized therapy, and all this kind of stuff. This is all based on the somatic mutation theory of cancer, that cancer is a genetic disease and the dysregulated cell growth is caused by mutations. And it says right on the National Cancer Institute website, if you go there, it says cancer is a genetic disease caused by somatic mutations, right? So our work and others says, no, that's absolutely incorrect. Cancer is not a genetic disease. The mitochondria, the organelle in the cytoplasm that regulates the biology and biochemistry of the cell, is corrupted, and is that organelle that produces mutagens called ROS, reactive oxygen species. When that organelle produces ROS, you get a collection of mutations in the nucleus. So the mutations in the nucleus are the effects of disturbed energy metabolism, not the cause. So you have a totally different view now of what the dysregulated growth arises from. It arises from chronic disruption of efficient energy metabolism in the organelle called the mitochondria. And now we're finding that we have cancers that have no somatic mutations, yet are growing out of control. That's not consistent with the somatic mutation theory. The new findings are showing that we have these driver mutations. Now, it was thought that not all the mutations in the nucleus are bad guys, only the ones that are called drivers, the driving of the dysregulated cell growth. And then the field kind of pivoted a little bit and said, okay, let's not focus on all these mutations because there are hundreds of millions of these mutations, but let's just focus on the ones that we think are the bad guys. So now we're looking at normal tissue. Now with the development of all these technologies, we can just take tissue from our own body, normal, healthy, young people, older people, and we start doing genetic screens, and we find all these driver mutations in normal cells that aren't dysregulated. What the hell does that mean? And then the nuclear mitochondrial transfer experiments clearly show that if you put new mitochondria into a cancerous cell, you can shut down dysregulated cell growth. And if you put bad mitochondria, inefficient, in a normal cell, you can induce dysregulated cell growth. So clearly it's the mitochondrion that's calling the shots on this whole thing. And now you know how to prevent cancer. You keep your mitochondria healthy. And now you know how to manage cancer. You target the fuels that are driving the fermentation. That's what our big thing is. Warburg showed that glucose was fermented to generate energy. We have found that the amino acid glutamine is also fermented. So these are the two fuels that are replacing energy from healthy, normal mitochondria are being replaced by these ancient fermentation pathways driven by two fuels, glucose and glutamine, and they can't burn ketones or fatty acids. So now you have the plan. You know exactly what you need to do to stop cancer. You got to target their fuels that are fermenting as energy without oxygen and raise the ketone bodies in your body, which the cancer cells can't use, but the normal cells can use. Nothing could be less complicated than what I'm talking about. So this is why people can't understand. How could it be that simple?
Thomas, let me see if I when you have mitochondria and the mitochondria get retarded because of the fuel that you're feeding them, they then
don't get retarded. Their efficiency to produce energy through breathing oxygen becomes less and less efficient. So how do you do that? You smoke a lot. You get obese. You eat crap food. You don't exercise. You got a lot of stress. All of these things will corrupt the ability of the mitochondria to produce energy efficiently.
And then when they produce that inefficient energy, it damages the nucleus, and that's what they're focused on instead of looking at where the origin is.
Yes, pretty much so. Yes.
And so what you're saying is they're trying to fix step 2, and it doesn't matter because the part that's producing the bad mitochondria, even if you fix the nucleus, it doesn't matter. This thing's just going to keep damaging more and more nucleus because the source, the mitochondrial source, the step 1 is messing up all the nucleus.
It's an organelle. It's a spaghetti-like organelle inside. It's a living, breathing organelle inside the cells. It's unbelievable. That came from a fusion hybridization early in the development of life on the planet. So these bacteria fused together. One bacteria could use oxygen, the other one couldn't. It was locked into energy without oxygen. So when the mitochondria become gradually corrupted in normal cells of our body, it falls back on the fermentation, ancient pathway of energy, that you can get ATP, energy without oxygen. The problem is you no longer have a regulated state. It's dysregulated. So, and then you say, well, what's this energy without oxygen? And that's called fermentation, energy without oxygen. And then you say, well, what fuel are they using to replace this highly efficient engine, this mitochondria? And it's the sugar glucose and the amino acid glutamine. So now you know, well, let's target glucose and glutamine and see if we can kill cancer cells while transitioning the whole body off to ketone bodies, which tumor cells can't use. And you find out that these tumors start shrinking up. They start to disintegrate. And you can manage it while the rest of the body is getting healthy. So you're actually targeting a lot of chronic problems in the body. So some people who have cancer and they also have diabetes and they have obesity, high blood pressure, hypertension, they have a lot of other comorbidities. A lot of that stuff goes away while you're destroying the tumor because you're transitioning the whole body away from fermentation back to oxidative phosphorylation and killing those cells that can't make that transition. So tumor cells are extremely vulnerable to this. They can't adapt. They're locked into this ancient fermentation pathway. The normal cells over millions of years of evolution have adapted to shift energy from one source to another because they have healthy mitochondria. Cells that do not have healthy mitochondria are trapped into this fermentation. So all you have to do is target the fermentation and kill them. Not that complicated.
On a side note, Clock, Seyfried served in the United States Army during the Vietnam War, receiving the Bronze Star, the Air Medal, and the Army Commendation Medal.
Yes.
Okay, we'll get back to that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about that too.
Thomas, so
50 years ago.
that was a while back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 1970, right? 1970.
I don't know. I was born in 72. Bear with me. Thomas, I didn't even know I don't even know the difference between I didn't even know Boston was in the United States. Thomas,
hey, listen, today, listen, gentlemen, I want you to appreciate something.
Please.
Today is St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, yes.
But in Boston, we call it Evacuation Day because this was the day in 1798 when the British Army had to leave Boston because they were getting pounded by the colonials. So our freedoms today started here in Boston, and don't anybody forget about that.
Wow. That's crazy. I never knew that.
Good reminder.
I went to public school. I thought you just pinched the girl next to you today.
No. The British Army
drink green beer.
The British Army couldn't get the hell out of here fast enough, for Christ's sake.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
Guys, I know you guys are just in love with Thomas, and you guys the questions are pouring in. Bear with me here. I really want to give time for you guys to ask questions. Really quick, because I want to keep going down this line of thought. But before we do that, do you have any peers in the United States who are studying what you're studying?
Oh yeah, they're coming to know. We just published a major paper with multiple MDs, PhDs, and nutritionists and dietitians that have jumped on board with our big paper on glioblastoma, deadly brain cancer, which that strategy and that protocol could be easily adapted for the management of the majority of cancers.
But people aren't jumping on board fast enough because the money's not there. Like you were saying, the American Medical Association, the NIH, they're not.
I mean, who do you want to jump on board? You'd love the NIH to jump on board. But when they propose that cancer is a genetic disease on their website, they're out in left field somewhere. They don't know what the hell's going on. If they did, they wouldn't be saying stuff like that because the science no longer supports what they're saying on the website. And the pharmaceutical industries, they and the hospital industry. Of course, you got the academics who get big grants to study gene mutations. You got the hospitals making a lot of money treating cancer patients, and you got the pharmaceutical companies making a lot of money on these drugs based on the somatic mutation theory. So the entire industry is geared for treating cancer for something other than it is. But it takes time. I'm not. These guys will come around as long as the first guy can figure out how to make a significant amount of money. Believe me, everybody will fall in line. They always chase the dollar. But I'd love them to know. Let's keep the patient alive. That should be our prime cause. No. Revenue first, patient outcome second. So we'd love to have. And don't get me wrong, we have millions of cancer survivors who have been brutalized by a system. And many of them are suffering now secondary effects from being radiated and treated with toxic poisons and this kind of stuff. But we'd like to reduce all that. We'd like to keep people managed healthy, come out of this treatment protocol healthier than when you went in. And that's why we developed the Press Pulse Therapeutic strategy. framework for that, which has now been fleshed out in our big protocol treatment. We're doing a lot of stuff. It just takes time for the field to catch up. And when they catch up, the people are going to want this. Let's be honest. It's not the industries. It's going to be the people. And there's a lot of ways that we can dovetail all this into a very effective strategy. And we're working on that. I think Greg Glassman and Emily Kaplan are working to facilitate these kinds of transitions through their MetFix process. This will be an instrument that will allow what I'm saying basically to be translated to the masses so that they can all jump on board. So this is the future. It's coming. More and more people are getting on board. Is it there yet? No, it's not there yet. So, but I have the science to support what I'm saying. I mean, it's not like I'm pulling this stuff out of my butt. We have done all the research to support this. It's based on the foundational principles of Otto Warburg, and we have now cleared up the misinformation associated with that, and we can now move the field forward in the right direction.
If I'm going to do a simple algebra equation. So if cancer cells need glucose or glutamine in order to perform their fermentation, which keeps them alive, can a human being just stop consuming glucose and glutamine?
No.
Do we need those to survive? Other parts of us need that stuff?
Well, listen, our liver will make glucose through gluconeogenesis. This is the way when we stop eating, we start transitioning to metabolizing stored fuel in our bodies, or some of the amino acids are metabolized to glucose through the process of gluconeogenesis. The problem is this is a residual amount of glucose, and we start burning a lot of fats and ketone bodies, which are going to be the prime fuels. And a little bit of glucose, of course, is needed for our red blood cells and a few other aspects. But the cancer cell needs this in large quantities. So, and we cannot use any diet therapy to lower glutamine. Glutamine is the most abundant amino acid in our bloodstream. And it's there because it's important for our immune system. Our immune system uses glutamine. Cancer cells use glutamine. So you have to know a strategy to recognize that the importance of glutamine is for our health, our gut, our immune system, urea cycle. Glutamine is an essential amino acid for many physiological processes, in addition to driving the dysregulated growth of the tumor cell. So you put a chokehold on the glucose, and the tumor cells gets very weak, and then you come in with targeted therapy to target pulsing the glutamine. So you don't go in there like a bull in a china shop. You got to be strategic in how you hit the glutamine. But we have drugs that can do this. We have procedures that can do this. The problem is very few people, if any, are doing this because they don't have any clue. They never heard that glucose and glutamine drives the dysregulated growth of the tumor cells. So how are you going to be able to what are you saying? They're saying, oh, no, let's use immunotherapy. Let's use radiation and chemo. I said, what the hell? I mean, that's primitive. That's Stone Age, medieval kinds of therapy. We now have the knowledge to be very, very precise on this, killing the tumor cell while making the rest of the body healthy. Whoa, wow, big thing, right?
So I could switch my diet to kale and steaks and eliminate the glucose, but you're saying the glutamine.
Well, you won't eliminate glucose. You'll lower it.
Lower it.
Yeah, and that's why we developed the glucose ketone index calculator to allow people to know what metabolic state they're in to put pressure on tumor cells. So, and kale and steak eaten in small amounts, not gorging yourself on it so you stagger away from the table. You eat small amounts of this to keep your body super healthy while you exercise. You got to make sure the exercise is in there. Exercise takes sugar out of the bloodstream and makes oxygenation of the healthy cells so they can burn fatty acids and ketones better that the tumor cells can't burn. So it's a whole systems biology approach to managing cancer. And all of this has to be integrated together. It just can't be one or the other, or a little bit of this or a little bit of that. So the educational mission here is to show people how their bodies actually work and how fuels are used and how you can put all this together in a strategy to not only prevent cancer, but also to manage it if you do it. if you do happen to get cancer, how you can effectively manage it without toxicity. But it requires a reconfiguration of the healthcare industry to know about this. And this is one of the things that we've developed the tools. We have developed the tools to do all this. The problem is the tools are not being used the way they should be. But once you know how to use the tools, then these chronic diseases are all going to be reduced significantly, especially cancer. I call cancer the #1 chronic disease. It's the big dog. It's the disease that puts the fear of God into the soul of human beings. We can remove all of this anxiety associated with cancer because now we know how to manage it and prevent it.
And that fear is what pharmaceutical is leveraging, obviously, so that people panic and then run to whatever resource, anyone who says that they can help them, right? That's the psychological piece.
Yeah, well, I think many people fear the treatments as much as they fear the disease, because you look at some bald person with tubes coming out them, vomiting, diarrhea, fatigue, hair loss, and all these kinds of gums bleeding, mucositis and all this. People don't want that. People aren't happy to get in line. I can't wait to go bald from the treatment I'm giving. I mean, this is nuts. This tells me that people who have these symptoms are being treated by other human beings of our species that have very little understanding of the nature of the disease they're treating. So we can eliminate most of that when you realize that this is a mitochondrial metabolic problem, and how you make your mitochondria healthy and simultaneously target the fermentable cells. So yeah, it's a work in progress. We're just the tip of this right now. You have to realize this is not well established in hospitals. In fact, the poor physicians have never been trained to even understand what the hell I'm talking about. They think they've been trained. They're trained to treat people with the therapies that are supposedly part of the going standard of care. Now, standards of care can be very important for a variety of different diseases, but in cancer, it's been a disaster, creating tremendous health problems and ineffectiveness, recurrence of the disease, and then you get all the charlatans and quacks out there throwing all these absurd supplements on top of you. I mean, people, once they're educated and know what to do, they'll be able to do it effectively. And that's one of our missions, is educate and show people what you really need to do and how to do it. And that's taking time.
I did see an interview. It has over 1 million views on YouTube. You were speaking to an oncologist, and I could tell he was like blown away. He was like, Dr. Seyfried, everything you're saying is making sense. 100%. I'm just struggling because I just want to give chemo and sprinkle in some chemo. And it was a fascinating, it was a fascinating interview watching you kind of open his eyes. Do you get a lot of pushback? Do you have a lot of enemies?
No, I don't know if they're enemies or not. I think the people where we see the pushback is when people read the papers, hear what I say, and then immediately rush into the oncologist's office, asking them, can I have metabolic therapy along with whatever
that's what
else?
I would do. After hearing you speak 6 times in person, I'd be like, I want to do what Thomas says.
Yeah.
I'd go to Kaiser and be like, Tom, can you call Thomas?
Yeah. Well, the problem is the poor guys, the oncologists have not been trained to understand this. They are trained to give you radiation and chemo and whatever else they're giving you at dosages that are just under the life-threatening possibilities. It's the idea you got to try to kill the cancer before you kill the patient. I mean, this is nuts. This is absolute insanity. You don't do stupid stuff like this. That means you don't understand the biology of the disorder you're treating. You don't have to do that. You just have to pull the plug on their fermentable fuels. Oh, I never heard that. Well, if that was so important, how come I didn't hear it in medical school?
Right.
Well,
right.
Who the hell are the people in the medical schools that are they think cancer is a genetic disease. So if you're being told that, let's target these mutations, why are we? Because cancer is a genetic. Who says that? NIH says that. NIH says cancer is a genetic disease. Okay, well, then we have to make these precision. But the problem is with some of these immunotherapies, yes, there are people who get really remarkable effects, provided that all of the abnormal markers on the surface of the tumor cell are targetable by the immunotherapy. The problem is sometimes those markers are on your normal kidney and liver, and that immunotherapy now blows out your kidney and liver and kills you before the cancer will kill you. So people have to know this. What's the strategy? Why are you doing what you're doing? It's a genetic disease. We have to target I'm not saying we throw out all the standards of care. We might be able to use immunotherapies as a final tool to eliminate any residual tumor cells that might be hanging around that actually survive the metabolic therapy. And then you can come in with a small dose of radiation, a small dose of immunotherapy, a small dose, a very low dose of a chemo, together when the body is in nutritional ketosis. All of this can be integrated into a much more effective treatment strategy. The problem is the guys who should be doing this at the top medical schools, Dana-Farber, MD Anderson, Sloan Kettering, the Moffitt, you can go around the country, the Fred Hutch. These guys don't understand. They don't understand, or they don't want to understand, or they are brainwashed into thinking cancer is a genetic disease. And therefore you don't get what I'm saying.
Let me we got someone with a question. Caller, can you hear me? No, hold on. This Mickey Mouse operation here. How about now? Caller? No? All right, I hung up on you. Try again. Call back. Thomas, when I had a buddy, 20, 30 years ago, an acquaintance, and his mom had cancer, and he swore that eating apricot seeds cured his mom of cancer, and he started selling them online, and he went to jail for 10 or 15 years. Do you have any concern about that? If you're like, hey guys, you need to eat a little bit of steak, and here's the protocol for the diet to mitigate cancer, eat a little bit of steak, eat a little bit of kale, here's the protocol, and that you could get in trouble for that?
Yeah, well, you have to know what you're doing. Those apricot seeds contain arsenic, laetrile. If you eat too many of them, you'll be dead. So you really got to know what to do and how to do it. Again,
yeah, I mean, I'm not a proponent of that at all. I don't even know if it's true. My friend may have even been a quack. I don't even know if it's true. But what I'm saying is like you're pushing up. The way I understood it is you're pushing. There is a freedom of speech. You're not allowed to say whatever you want. You can't.
Yeah, you can't yell fire in a theater either. You go to jail for saying something like that. That's not freedom of speech. There's certain things you can do. If you're saying things that are harmful and killing people, you got to be careful. You can go to jail for that. So, you have to be sure. You have to know what you're doing. Laetrile, which is from apricot seeds, it could be effective if used in the right dosages, and you have to then determine how it's going to target glucose and glutamine. The easiest thing to say is what therapy are you going to give me to take away the two fuels driving the dysregulated growth? That should be the question. If laetrile can be shown to do that, then you have a scientific basis for doing it. And like anything, any drug can be either therapeutic or toxic depending on how it's used. Again, it's the knowledge base of the practitioner that should be able to guide the patient in the correct direction based on the practitioner's knowledge of the situation. And then because you have a flawed theory driving the whole field, then people come in with all these quackeries and all this other crazy stuff that has no scientific basis, but because the main system itself isn't working, so people gravitate towards absurdities and things that aren't relevant. So again, once the theory becomes established that this is a mitochondrial metabolic disease, then people will start looking at ways to target those two fuels while transitioning the body to nutritional ketosis. And invariably, you're going to get better outcomes once that happens.
But no one comes after you the same way like they went after Tim Noakes in South Africa when he was talking about carbs.
I'm publishing the papers in peer-reviewed scientific journals, for crying out loud. This is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
I mean,
you're from Boston. You don't give a fuck. You're right.
Well, it's not that. It's just that
punch someone in the face.
No, it's not that. You just have to have scientific credibility, and you have to have the experiments that others can reproduce and make sure you're right. And then the best way to do that is if you're right, then people who are doing this should live longer. And our paper that just came out from Greece with my Greek colleagues showed that we're getting GBM, glioblastoma patients living 3 years and longer if they stick to metabolic therapy. I mean, for crying out loud. I mean, this is evidence, and we're seeing more and more people with no evidence of disease who effectively do metabolic therapy the correct way. The problem is we're not. People say, "Oh, where's the big clinical trial?" Well, you can't run a clinical trial if everybody doesn't know what they're doing. You're end up going to hurt people. It's like anything. You've got to have knowledgeable people up and down the strategy here. You have to have knowledgeable people. Let me see. Is this the one? Clinical research framework proposal. That's the new paper that we have. That's the proposal by Dr. Durai, who is the first author on this, and Miriam Kalamian, an unbelievably successful nutrition, Julio, a radiation oncologist, a radiologist, I should say, Dr. Joe Maroon, team surgeon for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Very distinguished.
Axel Pfluger, even I recognize him.
Yeah, we have people on there. We have a lot of people that are starting to get better and better and better. And the more people we treat, the better and outcomes will be, and the more we can perfect this.
I didn't see any Armenians on there. Let me see that. I don't see any IANs or YANs.
Well, let's say, Savan, not yet. Not yet. They'll be coming.
Can someone go on? Is there a place someone can go on the internet and find your protocol and administer that protocol themselves?
Well,
it's really the glutamine thing I'm tripping on.
Yeah. Well, we discussed that in the big protocol that you just showed. The issue, of course, is we wanted to make that protocol as totally comprehensive as possible, and it's for people who really want to know and understand how to approach cancer as a metabolic disease. And we discussed every nuance. We discussed all the supplements that could or could not be effective in doing this. It's more for the professional. But we need the patient themselves to understand the process. We need a little, I guess, summary on a paper. Here's your summary, what you need to do. And then the professionals will guide you through while you are shouldering a lot of the burden. People getting their glucose ketone index to 2.0 or below is what the patient needs to do. And the patient needs to know how he can achieve that and what the obstacles and difficulties will be encountered in attempting to bring your glucose ketone index down into the therapeutic zone. Because once you're in the therapeutic zone, where glucose and ketones are near unity in the bloodstream, then you can come in with these non-toxic drugs, some of these parasite medications, which we have found are targeting the glutamine and glucose pathways. So, and then you need to know how to do that. And you'd really like to go to a major cancer medical center and say, okay, guys, we're going to put you into the new metabolic state. The problem is these guys are big into toxic poisons, radiation, and surgical mutilation. The issue here is, surgery is an extremely important potential cure for cancer, but let's shrink the tumor down and let's make it really weak. So when the surgeon takes it out, he gets it all and leads to a cure, rather than going in there when the tumor is angry, spreading it around and creating an environment which could lead to recurrence. Everything is in its place. Should know. We don't want to throw any tool out that we presently have. We just want to know how to use them better.
Hey, if you got something's wrong with the phone right now, so just write your comments in the chat, and I'll try to get to them. Does someone need to get into this state? Does someone need a glucose monitor? Is that the step one if someone wants to start tracking their sugar?
That's a very important question. Right now, we have the Keto Mojo, which is a meter that will measure both the ketones conversion and glucose and do the ratio for you. But that, the issue with these blood glucose ketone monitors, you do in fact have to, prick your finger to get a drop of blood and then use a glucose stick or a ketone stick to feed it into the meter, and the meter then does the calculation for you. But we have the Free Libra, which is a patch on the arm that can measure glucose. But the problem is we don't have a patch yet that can measure both glucose and ketones, and then can transfer this information to your cell phone. So at any period of the day, you know exactly where your GKI is, and you'll know what you can and cannot eat. So people, what can I eat this? I have no clue what you can or cannot eat. Your GKI will tell you that. Your GKI is the quantitative measure to put you in the state of nutritional ketosis, and that's based on age, gender, culture, religion, all of these different things can be worked into an effective glucose ketone index. So clearly, yeah, the Freestyle Libre, but it doesn't do ketones yet. You got to have something that's going to measure the two together at the same time, and then you're going to have your GKI. That's going to be the effectiveness on this whole thing. When people can walk around and talk about their GKI, and I don't believe it. Well, here, look on my cell phone. You can see it for yourself. Oh, great! Wow, that tells me you're in the zone. So yeah, all this is coming, and the MetFix that Greg Glassman is working on with Emily could be the way to bring this all into mainstream. So if people want to prevent cancer and other chronic diseases, by the way, you keep a low GKI, your mitochondria healthy, you start losing weight, diabetes goes away, hypertension goes away. All these chronic diseases can be easily managed when you know what your GKI is. So with exercise, of course, you got to do the exercise. That lowers blood sugar and gets the oxygen back into your bloodstream. You just got to know what to do and how to do it. And this is what's coming. And MetFix could be one of these ways to do this. We'll just have to wait and see how it plays out.
That Freestyle Libre that measures your glucose.
Yes, in real time.
And there isn't some strong correlation between if your blood glucose is low enough, that you're for a long enough period of time that you're in ketosis. You can't just make that jump.
No, well, you can do it with Keto Mojo for sure. When you do the Keto Mojo, you're getting glucose and ketones. Don't forget, ketones replace glucose as a fuel. So, and that's another thing that people in the medical community get all mixed up. Oh, if you get your blood sugar down to 65, you're going to go unconscious. Not if your ketones are elevated, you won't. And then they say, oh, ketones are bad, ketoacidosis. Yes, that's when you get over 20 millimolar ketone in your blood. You could die from that. That's mostly from type 1 diabetics, not type 2 diabetics, sometimes type 2. But the GKI is the ratio of these two fuels. So you keep your balance. Paleolithic man was always in a state of nutritional ketosis. They didn't have highly processed carbohydrates in their diet. They had a lot of exercise, minimal carbohydrate in their diet. So Paleolithic man was always in a state of nutritional ketosis. They were not dying from diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure, cancer. They were dying from injuries and infections. That's what killed Paleolithic man. You didn't have an orthopedic surgeon fixing his broken hip. And you didn't have vaccines for various kinds of diseases, dying of smallpox and these other kinds of things, infection, sepsis, these kinds of things. So that's what killed Paleolithic man, not cancer or hypertension or high blood pressure. They died from those things. So now we're in a new environment. We're dying from chronic diseases left and right. And we just have to bring ourselves back into a Paleolithic kind of state, which the GKI will bring you back into that Paleolithic state.
Thomas, do you think that some of this Maha stuff is a distraction? I don't want to shit on anyone who's like trying to make people healthier, but do you think it's a distraction from like, hey, you just really have to stop eating sugar and get off the couch and move and not be too worried about red dye number 32 and microplastics and some of the things that they're talking about?
No, I mean, Make America Healthy, from what I understand, it's designed to reduce chronic disease. That's what's ultimately contributing to the majority of the health problems in this country are chronic diseases, right?
Right, but I don't hear them saying, "Hey, you have to stop eating sugar."
I hear them say that.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
I thought I heard Kennedy say that the other day.
Okay, good.
Lowering blood. Even that guy Hannity, for crying out loud, who he was talking about keto or something, which is like, whoa, this is a real eye opener, I guess.
Okay, that's good. Because sometimes I feel like they're missing the mark, like they're going into too many of the nuances of what you should be eating or what you shouldn't be eating. When it's like, hey, if you can get your glucose down, your
GKI, you want to get your GKI, glucose ketone index. But that's your key. You shouldn't be it's a quantitative measure. We developed that here for the cancer patients. But what we're realizing now is that it's being used to reduce chronic disease. It's a quantitative measure. Makes you super healthy, whether you have cancer or not. So, it's a way to get mitochondrial health. It's hard to get chronic disease if you're mitochondrial healthy. So it's a way to keep your mitochondria healthy. That's what it is. It's a marker for mitochondrial health.
So if someone just had to purchase one of those things, the Freestyle Libra or the Mojo, you would say get the Mojo because that's the most important fact.
Well, because you're measuring the two fuels together in the same drop of blood. The Free Libra is only measuring blood sugar. It's not measuring ketones. Now, once the Free Libra, there will be, listen, our technology will make this happen. Once you have a device like the Free Libra that you can measure real-time glucose and ketones, then people will have it, they'll have real-time information on the health of their mitochondria by keeping the low GKI. And that mitochondrial health will reduce the risks for all these chronic diseases. And it's a quantitative measure. And exercise, you put that together, and you're going to get all these, like Dom DiAgostino. He's always in one of these conditions. You know, he's this kind. And a lot of people can do that, but it's not going to be easy. But it'll be really nice to test your, because you know, if you get into a state of low GKI, you feel great, you're exercising, then you go out and eat a big pizza or drink Coca-Cola, or down there in the South, they drink stuff called sweet tea. You know, it's like supercharged. Yeah, but okay, let's see what that does to your GKI. Now you're going to understand why you're obese and you have all these kinds of chronic problems. You're going to avoid that stuff like the plague. Are you kidding me? You wouldn't want that stuff coming near you. But the problem is people don't know. They don't know yet. They don't understand. Let them get a GKI and then go down there. Let's eat that pizza and that sweet tea, and let's see what it does to your GKI, your eyeballs. You can't hear, you can't see. It's like, it's unbelievable. So your people will be able to take charge of their own health, and if they want to be obese and they want to be in chronic disease and all these kinds of problems associated, well, that's their choice. Well, nobody's going to tell people you got to get into a low GI. People will come to know themselves if they want to be there. If they don't want to be there, then there's going to be those guys that let's see how high we can get our GKI. Let's drink 5 gallons of sweet tea and wash it down with a big, Krispy Kreme donut. Let's see how high we can get our GKI and see what it does as you're destroying your mitochondria. I mean, there's always one of these guys, right, that want to say, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. Okay, we're not going to stop those people. If they want to do that, then let them do that.
Yeah. What's obviously great about all this is it puts the control back in to the people, right? It's the personal accountability, personal responsibility bunch. Based on your findings, this is from Ty. Do ivermectin or fenbendazole have mechanisms of action that support cancer starvation?
Well, fenbendazole certainly does. I don't know about ivermectin. We were planning to do a big program on that about 2 years ago, but it was everybody was like fired up about ivermectin for one reason or another. But we have to determine whether or not ivermectin can target the glutaminolysis pathway driving glucose, and the glycolysis pathway, which is the glucose pathway. We have research on we've just a paper for pediatric brain cancer where we showed that M-bendazole, which is similar to fenbendazole, can inhibit the glycolysis and glutamalysis pathways, making it an effective therapy. And I use that because we know that parasites, like cancer cells, use common pathways of energy metabolism. So if you have a drug that kills parasites, it makes sense that that same drug could be effective in cancer. And when you test it, it does. The problem with that is that you can't make money on these parasite drugs. They're dirt cheap. What are you telling me? I can replace Keytruda for $200,000 with a 98% tablet? And the answer is yes, you can. So like we found, it was very interesting. M-bendazole in India for parasite management is like 75 cents a tablet. When the pharmaceutical companies realized that works for cancer, they made $300 a tablet or more.
Wow.
That's called Scarelli. Remember that guy, Martin Scarelli, the most hated man in America, when he took the EpiPens and just jacked the price?
Yes.
Remember that guy? Yeah, he did it. He could do it. I mean, it wasn't any law. He could do it. And then everybody got angry with the guy. Well, many of these pharmaceutical companies are all working on Martin Scarella's platform. I mean, they just jack up prices to make money when things don't really. I put that in the immoral category. People that do that are immoral. You know, I'm not against people making a novel drug that they have proprietary to it that will be very, very effective in targeting glucose and glutamine. I mean, that's what you do. But you don't take drugs that are cheap that can work and you make a lot of money on them. That's immoral.
Thomas, what about people who take glutamine as a supplement? Is that a no-no?
Well, we're doing that research right now. We're actually doing those studies. We have something that, that's that guy. He did it because he could. Not that it was, moral to do that. He just did it because he could. He wanted to make money. Well, we're doing the same thing. We all want to make money, but you got to put it in an ethical way. I don't think you should be doing it like that. But anyway, that's a different issue. But yes, the glutamine issue about food, we found, and we're doing that right now, certain cancers will become stimulated by putting high levels of glutamine in the blood. Glutamine is already high. It's already above the threshold what the tumor cells need. And we're trying to figure out now, and we need glutamine to make our gut healthy. So a lot of times when people are irradiated for cancer management, the gut gets blown up from the radiation in one way or another, and they're given high dose glutamine to repair the gut because the gut needs glutamine. So in some ways, they say, glutamine is really important when you have cancer because it makes your gut healthy. But at the same time, it could also drive some residual tumor cells. We're trying to find the balance between the glutamine's therapeutic efficacy in helping the gut and targeting glutamine to shut down the ability of the tumor cell to grow. So we're in that zone right now, working out some of the misunderstanding of how glutamine can be both therapeutic and provocative at the same time.
Hey, do you know the link I sent you to come on the show?
I don't know, but I just signed on and I'm here, so I don't know.
Okay, because the connection got really, really bad, and I was wondering if I kicked you off, if you could sign back in. Do you see the button that you pushed, the link you pushed?
Yeah, I could go back and you mean the StreamYard one?
The StreamYard one. Yeah, let me kick you off and have you come back on because you're breaking up really bad. Okay, I'm going to kick you out. All right, try that again. Hey, this dude gives a shit.
Yeah.
This is what it sounds like when someone. Yeah, this is what it sounds like when someone really, really, really cares and loves what they're doing. This is what it sounds like. It's so rare you talk to someone like this. What?
Yeah, I hate science, but like he makes me excited about science. He's the kind of professor you want to like teach you shit.
Yeah, he's like an archaeologist that just uncovered like the lost city, and he's just been like dusting it off and finding new shit in the lost city now for years and years and years. Oh, there you are.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, that's better. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I may have messed that up. Okay, now you're clear again. Are you using that Boston College internet?
Yes.
All right. Well, you'd reach.
I'm here in my office right now. Well, my staff is working next door on these same issues that I'm talking about.
Thomas, when did you started looking at ketosis as in its relationship with epilepsy? Was it hard for you to jump to the cancer research? Like, did you have to abandon that research? And what year was that?
No, that was probably in the late 90s. One of my students, when I was at Yale for 9 years before I came to Boston College, in the neurology department. And the neurology department at Yale University at that time was one of the leading centers for epilepsy management, clinical practice, and research. And when I was there, we were working on mapping genes for epilepsy, essentially audiogenic seizures and a variety of other seizures. I learned a lot about epilepsy. All my colleagues that I worked with were epileptologists. I would go to the epilepsy meetings. I was on the board of corporate advisory for the Epilepsy Society of America. I started the ketogenic workshops at the American Epilepsy Society. I spoke to the leaders in the field. I wrote a grant internal to Yale years ago. I think it was in the 1970s, maybe early 80s, about ketogenic diet for managing epilepsy. And at the time, the university said, the people, oh, no, that's passe. We don't do that anymore. That's all finished. So I said, okay, what did I know? And when I came to Boston College, one of my graduate students, Mariana Tetrodova, went to one of the epilepsy meetings and said, oh, man, they're getting all excited about ketogenic diets for managing epilepsy. I told her, I said, forget about it. The people at Yale, the leaders in the world, they don't want it. They're not interested in it. So anyway, she said, oh, they're going to pay my way to go out to Washington, Seattle, Washington, to meet with Jim Abrams, former movie maker from Hollywood. He passed away recently, unfortunately. And he had done a movie with Meryl Streep, First Do No Harm. He did the airplane movies. You remember those kind of funny movies?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jim was the guy who was the director of those things. But his son Charlie had intractable epilepsy and almost perished until they realized that ketogenic diet could manage these seizures. And Johns Hopkins in Baltimore was the leading field in ketogenic research at that time. And there was very few, but Johns Hopkins was the leader field with John Freeman was the head guy. And now you have Eric Kossoff and others that are carrying this on down there for epilepsy management. And so Mariana came back and told me, wow, everybody's super excited. So I said, okay, let's reevaluate our work on epilepsy with ketogenic diet metabolic therapy. But at the same time, I had a parallel research project on cancer looking at angiogenesis, which is the abnormal vascularization of tumors. There was no linkage between the two until we found out that the ketogenic diet for managing epilepsy was related to calorie restriction. And it was very interesting. If you didn't calorie restrict the diet, the seizures didn't stop. So when you calorie restricted the diet, you could get management of epileptic seizures, and it seemed to be linked to the level of blood sugar. So we were studying angiogenesis, and we realized that calorie restriction could block angiogenesis as well, lowering blood sugar, turning off the blood vessels, the abnormal blood vessels. Well, you see now, what the hell is going on? Why is this calorie restriction so powerful in managing cancer as well as managing epilepsy? It all had to do with blood sugar. And then somebody said, Warburg said stuff like that long time ago. He said blood sugar was provocative to cancer. So I started looking back and said, what did Otto Warburg? And I go, oh my God, this guy really understood cancer better than anybody did. And so we started to follow his work. I got very deep into what he did. I had German translations of his work. And then, I was lockstep in what he was saying until I realized that this was a second fuel that he did not see that was also driving the fermentation, which was the glutamine. And I had speculated on that in my book that I wrote on cancer as a metabolic disease, just speculation. And then I said it's probably working through the mitochondria, through what we call mitochondrial substrate level phosphorylation. And which is a sophisticated process in the mitochondria, because these organelles can both respire and ferment at the same time under different conditions. But I speculated and pulled that out of my butt. But then I got a hold of Christos Xenopoulos in Semmelweis University in Budapest, Hungary, the world leader on this particular pathway. And I reached out to him and I said, Christos, I have an idea. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. But anyway, he started to work with us, and together we ferreted out the glutamine pathway that's actually glutamine being fermented in the mitochondria. It's unbelievable. So, and we just published this paper just very recently on glucose and amino acid fermentation driving dysregulated growth, fuels for cancer. Now, once the field comes to realize this, which is profound, when you realize Warburg was only half right, we've put the other half and showed why he ran into so much difficulty. And we also showed that oxygen consumption in cancer cells is not linked to ATP production. That's another big finding, that a big misinformation in the field. Because people say, oh, mitochondria are healthy in cancer. They take in oxygen consumption just as effectively as normal cells. The difference is in normal cells, they're using it for energy synthesis. In cancer cells, they're using it for ROS production, which are causing the mutations in the nucleus. Whoa, we can then peel back this whole thing. Get to the core of what's going on. It's unbelievable. Once people realize what we've done, we're going to drop the death rate on these now we know what we're dealing with, and we know how to manage it and how to prevent it. So it's just that it's too shocking, right? It's too radical right now, because it takes a while for the thinkers to reproduce what we're doing, go back and show, what we've done. And I think the new director of the National Institutes of Health, Jay, wants people to reproduce, make sure stuff we're doing is reproducible. One of the big problems in cancer is half the stuff we're doing can't be reproduced by anybody else. They publish papers with hundreds of little diagrams and flow charts and volcano plots, beehive plots, waterfall plot, all these different plots. Nobody can understand it. And then you try to reproduce it, you can't reproduce it. So, I mean, showing that glucose and glutamine are the drivers of dysregulated cell growth should be able to be reproduced fairly easily. The problems are not doing that. They're looking at all these gene mutations that are irrelevant, mostly irrelevant to the problem. And now we find some mutations are actually therapeutic, like the IDH1 mutation for brain cancer is therapeutic mutation. Wow, everybody badmouthed all these mutations. There are some mutations that actually can slow down the rate of growth of cancer. So we're interested in that as well.
And is Boston College brings you over there as an epilepsy expert, but then do they care that when you pivot to cancer? Or the bosses like, no, you can't do that?
Our mission here is to educate undergraduates so that they are scientifically literate. Okay. This is one of the great missions I have. I teach general biology to the non-science major, and I teach advanced cancer metabolism to the biology majors. And biochemistry majors. Our mission here is education. We're an educational institution. And in my area, it's scientific literacy. Do you know that 20% of our population are functionally illiterate? The majority of people in our country are scientifically illiterate. Can you believe this? 18% of our population believe that the sun revolves around the earth. Can you believe this? Go look it up. It's unbelievable.
I've had some of those people on my show. I mean,
they're a trip.
And listen, not only that, they can vote.
Thomas, what happens? What happens when you red pill these kids? So I want to go to medical school. I fucking end up passing through the pathway of Dr. Thomas Seyfried, and now I'm screwed. And now my medical school is trying to teach me that about cancer, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, that's the
how do they? What's the word I'm looking for?
You're irreconcilable with the other group.
Yes.
That's what my students tell me. They hear what I say, and then they go to medical school and they keep their head down. I don't say anything. It's because they want to get that MD degree. They want to attack the system.
Right.
That's there it is right there. But not all of them. Some of them are becoming more and more bold. So challenging the system, but if you're too aggressive and challenged, they'll throw you out. They won't accept you anymore. So so it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress.
I'm a hypochondriac. I take glutamine as a supplement. Should I go to my pantry and throw it out?
No. Why would you do that?
He doesn't want to feed the cancer. He doesn't want to feed the cancer cells.
Why are you worried about that? Just go out and run 5 miles a day, see what happens.
Okay, here you go. This is so there you go. 5 miles a day. We'll figure Thomas. Thomas has written the book. What's a good book he can recommend on this? Is your book palatable to your average 105 IQ?
Yeah, some chapters are, some chapters aren't. So, and that's the only book I wrote. There's people putting my name on these other things, these summaries. I didn't write that. I wrote this book. This is the book that I wrote, and it's not cheap. It's like $100 or something. You're not going to get the book. Hey, listen. Oh, John Wiley put the price on this, not me. I told him. I said, you got to. Oh no. John Wiley is a top science textbook producer. So anyway, John Wiley makes the majority of money, not me. But yeah, you want to read the book. There are some chapters in there. I didn't write it for the guy on the street, although the guy on the street can certainly understand some things. That cover is very interesting because that was the artwork of Robert Pope, who was an artist who had Hodgkin's disease and passed away in Canada. But he had an art studio where he would produce artwork on cancer. There's a family, that poor guy laying there. The kids, looking at their things while they're visiting their loved one. This is Robert Pope's artwork, and I have a lot of those artwork in the book as kind of, what cancer is. This is the more humanitarian view of what cancer is, how humans members of our family and society respond to those that have the disorder. But then we go through the biochemistry of it, and then we go talk about prevention, strategies for prevention, strategies for management. And a lot of it was speculative. Some of it was speculative when I wrote it. But over the last, 15 years, we've done the experiments to prove that we support more and strongly many of the concepts. And I have peer-reviewed publications that are open access. People want to know what I'm doing. They just put my name into Google and say, what is he publishing? And then you guys can read the Press Pulse Therapeutic Strategy. You can read all the new stuff that we have. So it's not like it's behind any paywalls or anything. You can get it. This study is the new one that just came out of my colleague Greek, Athanasios Evangelio, the second author on this paper, Thanasis Evangelio. I've known Thanasis for quite a number of years, and he's an epileptologist. He actually published the first paper showing how ketogenic metabolic therapy could reduce symptoms of autism. And he was working in the epilepsy field. So he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He's an excellent clinician. So if you're going to use a new therapy for managing cancer, you better make sure you have individuals that know what to do and how to do it. And he is one of those guys. And this paper shows how much longer people with glioblastoma can live if they do ketogenic metabolic therapy. The interesting thing about this paper is they still use standard of care, the radiation and the toxic temozolomide, and they still got the results, success. I said, if we didn't irradiate the brain in these patients, we may even gotten longer survival. We want 4 years to 5 years to be the norm, not the exception. Right now, most people are dying at 15 months from glioblastoma, sometimes earlier. 50% of the people are dead before a year. And I'm saying we can keep these folks alive so much longer if we just adapt what we know. And this protocol here, their diet was like sardines and salmon and some avocado and this kind of thing. And they did quite well. Can you imagine we threw exercise and glutamine targeting and no radiation? Gee, I think we can keep these people alive much longer. And all cancers as well. Pancreatic, colon, breast.
Thomas, is there a camp? Is there somewhere someone can go? Is there for 2 months and these protocols are
well,
you know what I mean? You pay someone a big lump of cash, you take a second mortgage on your house, and you're like, okay, this is the 2-month cancer camp.
Well, I don't know if you need to spend that much money and take mortgages on your house. That's why I think that MetFix may be a way to do that. If you can train the people working in MetFix to know what we know and have them get a certification of some sort, at least they have some level of expertise. And that might be the way to distribute this to the masses, because it ain't going to come from the top medical schools. That's the last place you're going to get that information.
So in CrossFit, the foundation is nutrition, but you're saying if MetFix but people have lost their way with that. But you're saying if MetFix really doubles down on that and makes nutrition, well, paramount.
I think it's a way to integrate all of the aspects of this for managing chronic diseases. I think that because the GKI would be foundational in using that as a tool, a quantitative tool to allow folks to know where they are. Because when you have a low glucose ketone index, your mitochondria are going to get healthier and healthier, and the tumor cells are going to get weaker and weaker. Now, if you don't have cancer and you're a young guy or a person who doesn't have cancer, regardless of what your age you are, you can use the GKI as a prevention tool, a tool to prevent your mitochondria from getting unhealthy. So this all can be integrated into a nutritional diet lifestyle, but people now taking an active part, not just assuming that I'm healthy because I'm running 5 miles, but I actually have a quantitative blood marker that's telling me that my mitochondria are in a state of health rather than in a state of compromise. So all of this can be worked in, but you have to have a path to distribute the knowledge to the majority of people, so they don't have to run off to a medical school to have these tests done. Yeah, you can do them simultaneously with blood work and these things. This is beginning. Don't worry. We haven't really, mobilized this whole concept yet to a working platform. So we're at the very, very earliest stages of doing this, Savant. So it takes time. We're just doing the basic. We're just building the foundation for this based on hard science, and then let folks like you and others start the implementation to the society.
Caleb, can you pull up the website again? I want to just do really baby steps. So this machine, if someone goes out and purchases this is below you to say to this level, Thomas, but if someone gets this Mojo machine, you don't even need the glucose monitor. You can get the Mojo machine, and you take this number and then you plug it into that calculator.
Well, the machine is a blood glucose ketone reader, and you can buy it all on Amazon. All this stuff is on Amazon. So you can, there's other Precision Extra. There's other meters out there that can do the same thing. It's just the Keto Mojo was the first to use the GKI to help people in all states of disease management.
Do you have a preference? Is there one that you prefer?
No. I just knew the guys who made Keto Mojo. They came to me. Actually, here's the interesting thing. We published the paper on the glucose ketone index with my students here some time ago. And the guys from Mojo came to me and they wanted a patent. They wanted to license. And we can't license it. It's just a formula. So we didn't make any money on this. We just let them use it. Let the Mojo guys use it. The bottom line is our focus is I keep my research going from philanthropy and private foundations. Our mission is to see how many people can benefit physically and mentally from what we're doing. If you can take someone who, you have stage 4 cancer and we're giving you 9 months to live, and your metabolic therapy can keep that person alive for 5 years or longer, that's success.
Yeah.
Why do I have to make $1 billion on that? All I know is you're keeping people alive with a healthier state. And then people who say, oh man, I really want to be part of the movement. Well, they can support our research through Travis Christofferson's Foundation for Cancer Metabolic Therapies, or through the university, Boston College. We have a cancer center here, a cancer site right on my webpage. People can make donations, keeps our preclinical system going. And the more research that we do, the more questions arise, and we do a dive on these questions, and we work out the details. Like, we haven't done ivermectin yet. We'd like to try that, but it costs a lot of money to do it. We have to do a deep preclinical study. We have to do the mechanisms of action. How is this working? Does it work? Yeah, it works. Okay, let's figure out the mechanism, because when you figure out the mechanism, now it makes a sensible why it works. So we do both. No, that's not my website. I have to go to the biology department website.
That one. Okay.
Biology.
Sorry.
Yeah, the biology department, Boston College.
The Keto Mojo meter doctor and his team developed has been an excellent tool for my daughter to know exactly where she's at in ketosis, especially before an HBOT session. I don't know what that is. What do you know what HBOT is? Yeah, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Okay.
Yeah, and we published with Dominic D'Agostino in my Press Pulse with Joe Maroon and the late George Yu. If you do hyperbaric oxygen, it's best to be in ketosis. I see there's a donation site there. See donations, you can.
There you go.
There's a little link there. That goes right to the university, Boston College. I cannot accept money from anybody directly.
So that doesn't go into your Bank of America account?
No, I don't. I don't. Any money I get, I'd have to turn it over to the university or Travis, because we have grants that support our research. So people make donations to the university or Travis, and then I get it through those official sites.
What was the name of Travis Christofferson's book? That was the first book I read on this stuff. It was
Tripping Over the Truth.
That's right.
Travis wrote that book. He read my book and he said, how come nobody knows about this? And he wrote he's a science writer. And then we have the Cancer Revolution by Maggie and Brad Jones. They're trying to come out with a documentary on that, how this all got started. It's going to be the future. There's no question about it. People want to live, and they want to live healthily. And
this is a great book.
If they know what to do and how to do it, they're going to be assisted with this. So again, it's moving forward in the right direction, I think.
That Mojo monitor, what's the number on there when you're in ketosis? What's the number? Is it below 1?
Well, we're working that. We did it for cancer. So if you want to kill cancer cells, we had 2.0 or below, which people say, oh man, I can't get down into that zone. Well, there are ways to implement further. You can do water only fasting. There's other ways to push it down further. It's the amount and types of foods you eat. You can push it down further. Everybody's their unique entity. I can't say what works for you will work for somebody else. It's age dependent, gender dependent, cultural dependent, religious dependent. Some religions, they can't eat certain things. So they have to modify. And that's what's beauty of this. It doesn't link you into any specific culture, religion, or age. Each person is their own unique metabolic entity, and they will need to do what they can do to lower their GKI into a therapeutic zone. And of course you're going to get the guys who are going to try to get below 1 and down into 0.5 zones. And yes, as long as your ketones are elevated and your sugars, your brain needs the energy from ketones. So, but I'm not a big fan of going to the extremes of using this, like some members of our species. They're extremists, and they're
very competitive. Hey, but obviously, right, Thomas? If you wanted to like jumpstart yourself into ketosis, a good way, or it can't hurt to do a 24-hour water fast, or just if you can't get off the coffee, drink black coffee, and then start avoiding sugar, like the plague. But a 24-hour fast would give you a good jump start into it, right?
Yeah, that would do it real well. And then you would then eat foods that have very low carbohydrates, and then you'll see, and exercise. Oh boy, you can drop it down faster. Walking, just go out and walk 3 or 4 miles, lift a little weights like your CrossFit guys. That'll lower your GKI even further. And then you get down into the zone. And the question is, how long can you stay in the zone? You don't have to stay there for the rest of your life. Our Paleolithic ancestors had no choice. They had no choice. If they wanted to, they couldn't get out of the zone because there wasn't any highly processed carbohydrates, and they couldn't sit on their ass because they're going to starve to death. How much energy does it take to run down and kill an elephant or a deer or some other big animal, a buffalo? I mean, how much energy you have to expend to kill one of these large animals and chop it up and cook it. I mean, and then you're so exhausted, you just want to relax for a couple of days before you have to go and do it all over again. All we have to do now is drive up to a fast food. They hand you the food right through the door, through the window. You don't even have, as I said, you don't even need to unask the car. It comes right into you. No exercise used at all. And then they wonder why you have type 2 diabetes, chronic disease, cancer. It's not a mystery here.
Hey, how are you on time?
Yeah, I have to get, I only about 5 minutes.
Okay, let me ask you this. Nothing related to this. Why did you join the Army?
Well, don't forget, you have to realize that was the draft. People were being drafted. That was draft time.
So you got drafted?
No, I didn't get drafted. I didn't want to be drafted. I figured I might as well go to officer candidate school and be able to, again, call my own shots to some extent. But it didn't make any difference. They still threw my ass in the jungle. And first Cav division. Are you kidding me? So, so you spend a year over there, blowing up stuff. And
what year was that?
It was 1971. So, and then as soon as I get out of the Army, I came back to graduate school at Illinois State University as a genetic. I got a master's degree in genetics from Herman Brockman, who was one of the top geneticists at that time. So a very knowledgeable individual. It was absolutely essential for my success in life. So, and then I got a PhD in genetics from the University of Illinois, and then went to Yale University to do glycolipid biochemistry with the late Robert Yu. So I've had training, foundational genetics and biochemistry training in my history. So I have a capability of knowing when people say something's a genetic disease or a biochemical problem, I can ferret it out and make my own decision. So all of this led to the movement that we have now, which is managing chronic diseases through metabolic therapy. And then, so cancer is a mitochondrial metabolic disorder. It's not a genetic disorder. And once you realize that, you can make a massive change. The paradigm will shift. It has to.
When you came back out of the Army and you went to school and got your PhD, afterwards, did they try to take you back? Did they try to get you back into the military?
No, but I did go back into the reserves, in biochemistry capacity rather than field artillery. I was field artillery guy, forward observer with the first Cav. But you know, those were tough times in the 70s when we had the oil embargo, and people were lining up to get gasoline, going wild, couldn't afford to heat your house with the oil. Oil was so expensive. So I needed some extra cash. So I went back in the reserves. And I stayed there for several years. I got out of the Army as a captain. But if I had stayed in longer, I would have been sucked into the Gulf War because that was the next big theater that we had. But that's okay. I mean, I did my stuff. I put a lot of energy into the military, and I benefited. Got the GI Bill, so I could get a PhD and all this stuff. So yeah, and I have veterans. I have veterans health coverage and other types of health coverage. So if you can survive it, it's worth it. Today, everybody fears, you know, but in the old days, I mean, we just did it because that was the nature. Yeah, there was draft dodgers. You know, we should know some of these folks. They kind of lead the nation. You know, people make their own decisions about things. You know,
what was it like being a forward observer during Vietnam?
You know,
that was pretty intense, right?
Yeah, we spent 35 to 45 days, and we called it the bush, without coming back to a fire base. I was on fire base Snuffy, which was right on the Cambodian border, and we had a big incursion into Cambodia, if you remember. It was May 1970 when the National Guard opened fire on the kids from Kent State University. That was in protest to the Cambodian operation. And the war was getting out of hand. Back home, the students were overtaking the college campuses, revolting, because they knew the war was a dead end. Dead end meaning that we were losing men, and we weren't making any difference. And I knew right away we could never win this war, because these guys were all in the bush. They were hiding in the jungles. We're not going to get these guys out. I remember when Curtis LeMay says, we're going to bomb them back to the Stone Age. Well, Curtis LeMay fought the Second World War from the skies using bombers to destroy European villages. The guys we were fighting in Vietnam were already in the Stone Age. You can't bomb them back to where they already are. So, you know, you know, I knew right away we ain't going to win this war anytime soon. So I mean, you can chase them around, you know, fire the poor bastards that you shot and killed. I mean, but they weren't going to go away, and they were motivated, and we were losing our motivation, having been over there for so many years and not make. It was like the cancer situation. It wasn't going anywhere. You had to make a change, and the guys back home that were protesting were putting pressure on the federal government to get the hell out of there. So, you know, right. And that's, I think, what got us out wasn't the fact, we didn't lose any of the major battles, but we certainly never won the war. That's for sure.
Right.
And it was a false flag that brought us in there in the first place. The Bay of Tonkin, the USS Maddox was supposed to have been attacked by some Vietnamese torpedo boats, and that gave us the stick. Just like the weapons of mass destruction was a false flag to bring us into the Gulf. I mean, we keep doing this over and over again. When are we going to realize it doesn't work sometimes?
You just changed the definition of weapon of mass destruction to include chemical thing. And now all of a sudden
it turned out that neither the Maddox was attacked nor were there Saddam Hussein have any of these, right?
Yeah, they definitely didn't have nukes, that's for sure.
No. And when you're a young guy, you don't know. You just go around doing stuff what people tell you to do. But when you get older, you can start putting the pieces together, just like we did for the cancer thing. We started putting the pieces together, realize that it's not a genetic disease, it's a mitochondrial metabolic disease. So, and then you can move forward. Then you can move forward in the right direction. But you know, I'm not going to get into politics like this. I mean, we got too many people dying of cancer. We need to straighten that out first.
Thomas, it's very clear you're like one of the most passionate people that I've met. It's obviously clear you love your job. You were when you were rebooting to come on the show. It was like you seem like an archaeologist to me that's just discovered a massive city. And now you just love uncovering all the different artifacts you're finding in the city. It's really you're a gift and a blessing to humanity, man. Thank you so much for what you're doing. From the first time I met you in Boston, I always thought, man, this guy has a lot of energy and he must love what he's doing. So thank you for what you're doing, and thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, you. Doc. Nice for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. And hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Okay. Bye now.
Have a good
Take it
day.
easy.
Ciao.
See you, Doc.
Wow. I have a million more questions for him.
Yeah, me
Indiana
too.
Jones of oncology. Yeah. It's crazy.
Literally Indiana Jones, dude. Yeah, if
Man.
him in Vietnam was got to be insane.
Hey, when he
'Cause,
said he
like,
was like, when
legend-
was he a guy who just sat in a tree like way up in the front and was like, was he like a scout? Like he
Yeah,
had to do,
yeah.
he was in
So,
a bad
like,
situation.
all the time. Forward
Yeah.
observers in Vietnam were just
Sounds horrible.
it was crazy for them.
You're
that was
feeding
like
intel behind you. You're basically just up in the front
Mhm.
getting intel.
And
Oh,
you're just out there, like you said, we were over in Cambodia and just like doing stuff that we were in places that we weren't supposed to be. And like they were just going to get killed. And so I'm guessing he probably worked with the local the Vietnamese army and all that shit. And they were out in the bush, like he said, for days on end, not. And then they just come back. And
I know. What do you eat 35 days in the bush?
Fucking nothing. You start hunting for shit. Like, I don't know. That fucking crazy, dude. That guy's done some shit. He's done some shit.
Did you see this comment we got on YouTube yesterday?
Is it the one that somebody sent this morning? About our deviancy?
Oh yeah, where is that? I don't even see it anymore. But yeah, someone said that they're going to stop listening, and other people are going to stop listening too if we continue with the sexual deviance.
Here, I got it.
Hi, Sevon. Been listening since you started. Lately, you and Caleb's deviant sex discussions. I don't even like deviant sex. I'm disgusted by deviant sex. I wish I knew what you were talking about.
And what do you consider deviant sex? Because we talked about stuck porn.
Or maybe it was the pushing down on the rigidity of the penis in the morning. I was like, that's just anatomy.
That's just dude shit. You just put your hands on your freaking cock and balls.
Listen, I'm a missionary doggy style. I'm a 2 or 3 position guy. I'm chill. Like I told you, I only think about my wife. What are you talking about?
It's true. Yeah.
I was like, man, what do you? I don't ever try to push it in when it's dry. You know what I mean? If it's not wet, I ain't fucking with it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not a dick. I'm not a dick. I'm patient. Yeah, I'm patient. Oh, thank you for the coffee. I'm chill. I've never cheated on my wife. Like I'm chill. What are you talking about? Deviant. I can't help it. I can't help it if I'm enamored by the rigidity of my penis. But I don't think that it's not sexual at all. Like hanging a towel from my cock. That's not.
You don't get any pleasure out of that?
No, it's more like a fitness. I mean, I do, but not in a sexual way.
Usually, I just think it's funny. Like,
if I'm gonna be honest, it's probably just a bunch of pee in there. It's probably an old man pee hard on. I probably don't. You know what I mean? It's probably not even a legit one.
You woke up in the middle of the night with just a rock hard dick, dude.
Yeah, I mean, come on, David. What?
That's the worst part because then you can't actually pee.
Yeah,
just gotta sit there with a freaking boner.
Be cool. At least tell me what it is that I did that was deviant. The opposite of deviant. I'm a fucking prude. I was a nun in another life. But my favorite part is when he says listeners like me.
So there are more of them out there, you know.
Anyway,
they don't want to discuss such deviant proclivity.
Please don't judge me. Yeah, and if you're better than me, I need you around me to help me and guide me.
Maybe I'll guide you.
I love the majority of your content, but would never ask you not to talk about it.
I would never censor you, but I do think that you should maybe not say those such things.
I can't do the helicopter. I have a bad back. What are you talking about? No, just joking. I don't have a bad back. Hey, I'm doing the workout today very soon.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. I'm just going to walk around my house for like 2 hours until like I feel good. Hey, how could you, after a 50, it's the 5 wall walks in a 50-calorie row, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be so sweaty and loose after that 50-calorie row. I think everything will be fine. I don't even think I have to warm up for this workout.
No, probably not. The 5 wall walks will get you like a little warm, and then the row will get you finished.
Yeah, I'm just going to chill I'm going to use the row as the warm up.
Exactly. You'll be.
And then I'm going to do the 25 deadlifts unbroken.
Oh fuck. Okay. Okay. All right. God damn.
All right. Anything else? I don't think so. Tomorrow, we got a good show. You're 53, Sevon. Warm up. All right, fine. I'm gonna get. Oh, we should put all of those things. Can we put all of those things in the show? How do you do that
Yeah,
again?
I did. I put I put the 2 things that I could. I had his book in there, and then I
Okay.
put the Libra 3, the freestyle Libra.
Oh yeah.
Put
Okay.
that one in there. But the one that he was talking about, the Keto Mojo, is not in there.
Oh, it's not
No, I tried to find it. There's only
keto.
Mojo. Yeah, I just get a bunch of supplements. I don't get
Keto
any.
Mojo. Oh yeah, you're right. It is just supplements.
Yeah, I put in diabetic monitors, and then that's how I found the Libra stuff.
All right. I'm gonna bite the bullet and get that.
The Keto Mojo.
Yeah. I want to see. I'm gonna fast for 24 hours and try that. And see what
Yeah,
happens.
I think I'm gonna probably do a fast after I take my PT test tomorrow.
Oh, you have to do another. What's that all about? What's your PT test gonna be like?
Super gay.
Is it easy? Is it hard?
No, I just don't. It's not hard. I just don't want to run a mile and a half.
Oh, right.
I don't want to run
right,
fast.
Right.
I just hate doing it. So,
Hey, what will you
There's
do?
a-
Will you treat yourself to something? Hey, drink
When
like
I'm
half a
done?
can of Ghost or something. No, even before. Be like, okay,
Oh,
motherfucker,
before.
you want a piece of this?
Yeah, I know. I'll probably make a little pre-workout for myself, and then have a
Yeah.
banana, and then just freaking start booking it. I kind of hope that I do it second. I'll do like my push-up, pull-up, sit-up bullshit, and then I'll go run.
Do a bunch of people go together?
Yeah, they just have like a mass start, and everybody kind of like for the
Is
calisthenics.
it on
stuff,
a
they just
track? Do you know? Like every time you no.
No, it's a trail, which is also kind of dumb, but also I don't really. It's not that bad.
Hey, if you just put, do you have to push? Can you just jog the whole thing?
No, I gotta run.
You got to run.
I gotta kick it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that sucks. Yeah, that
I
sucks.
hate that. And yeah, so but it's the last one I'll have to take like that for hopefully ever. So.
And then are you done? Is this why you're still hanging out in Florida? You're just waiting for this is like the final.
Yeah, this week is just kind of like we got school closed down because of this bunch of snow we got.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it got pushed back. So this week we do like our processing stuff. And then Friday we'll do like a whole graduation ceremony where everybody, so like my family will be there. They do
that's cool.
They give us the whole thing. And yeah, it'd be really cool if you wanted to live stream it.
Could we? Oh no, I see what you're saying.
Fuck no, dude.
Oh yeah, I see.
I don't want anybody seeing that shit.
I see. Hey, hey,
don't you dare.
If you don't, let's say you run and you don't pass, they'll just make you do it again, right? They'll be like, come back next week. Oh God, that
no, it'll just take like a couple, they'll just have me do it like the next day or something.
Oh,
but I have never not passed a PT test. So,
but you can't fuck around. Is someone is someone at the halfway point there? Like, hey, you're on pace, or you don't even know?
I run with my Garmin, so at least I have like a pace number that I can see. I can instantaneous pace. So at least
you'll know if you're doing good, you can be like, okay, I can slow down a little bit. I'm doing good.
And there are also some guys that I know, like if I'm around the same, like if I'm around them, then usually I'm good.
Shit's good.
Yeah.
Breathe every 4 steps. I've never heard that.
I don't think I do that. I just sound like a fucking retarded dog.
Did you do 25.3?
No, I don't think I will. I don't want to fuck myself up for tomorrow.
I don't. You got. There's some line you're supposed to put on the ground. I don't know. Fuck. There's some
For
line
the-
you're supposed to measure. Dave was telling me you have to put you. I wasn't gonna put the line on the ground. I was just gonna go do the wall walk. I don't think my phone's working. By the way, I don't know what's going on with my phone. So I don't think I know, but no one else can hear you. Let me see. There's some line you're supposed to put on the ground, and he said that's the hardest part because getting within. Are you there, Jeremy? You have to get within 10. Oh, you have to get within 10 inches of the wall. I know, but I think I'm about to lose you. No, yeah. Sorry, dude. The phone's not working worth a shit. I have to reboot my Roadcaster. Okay, bye. Yeah, that's the part I don't want to. I don't want to deal with any of that. Those are definitely not D's.
I think they are.
Oh.
I don't want to fuck with that either. I don't really care I hate having to draw the lines out. That's why it was so nice when I would just go to, there was Blue Water CrossFit or CrossFit Blue Water, whatever the fuck. When I would go there, Tom just had it set up. Like obviously the affiliate has people doing it, but he was already set up, and I would just like, how do I do this again? And then he would just be like, you do this and I'll tell you where to go next and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, sick. Thanks, dude. It was so nice.
Yeah, that is nice. 10 inches from the wall, so dick length. So if my dick touches the wall, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. If you can maintain a boner the whole time.
Yeah, no problem. That's not deviant, David. That's not deviant. It's a fitness strategy. I don't like you listening if you're going to judge me either so harshly.
Yeah,
dude, I need specifics.
Chill.
All right.
Yes, Rambler. Destin.
What's today? Is today Monday?
Monday, yeah.
Okay, so Dave's going to do his weekend review today. Okay, so I'll see you guys later on today. All right, wish me luck.
Good luck.
Thank you. See you guys later. I hope you enjoyed the show. I want to stay with you guys, but I can't. I can't fuck around today. I got to do my life. Bye-bye.